He pointed a taser at my chest, counted to 3, and fired. My little girl screamed and I hit the asphalt. Then before the dust even settled, I heard engines and boots, and a voice I know better than my own say I'm here. You want to know how a grocery run turned into a civil rights lesson? How one officer's power trip met a wall he didn't see coming? How a family like mine decided not to fold? Here's the truth, the way I lived it, not cleaned up, not shouted, just told plain so you can feel the heat coming off the pavement with me. It was a bright afternoon at Westfield Shopping Center, Whole Foods bags digging into the crook of my arms, my daughter Chloe's hand sticky from a sample cookie, the lot full of sun glare and car alarms chirping somewhere far away, and I was fishing for my key fob and humming not a care in the world bigger than whether the ice cream would survive the drive. Then a shadow stepped into my space and a voice said, "Ma'am ID, now that bark that makes your shoulders rise before your brain catches up." I turned and read the tag, Officer Blake. Turner wide stance hand resting on his radio like he'd been waiting all day to press it. And I said, "What's the problem, officer, because I was raised to handle heat with water, you know what I mean?" He told me there'd been an anonymous tip about vehicle prowls, that I fit a description that I needed to step away from my car and put my hands on the roof, and I looked down at my bag with bananas and almond milk and a crumpled receipt peeking out, and then at Chloe gripping my thigh, and I said calmly, "I live 10 minutes from here, I shopped for 40 minutes, there are cameras everywhere, and I do not consent to a search." His mouth tilted the kind of smile that says the game just started, and he snatched my license and read my name like an accusation. Jasmine Carter, Wilson, Ocean View Drive, pretty nice neighborhood for someone like you, and he clicked his mic and called for backup before he even glanced at my ID, like the decision had been made long before the question. People slowed. You can feel attention turn like a wind, phones coming up like sunflowers finding light, and a teenage kid drifted close enough to see, and not close enough to get pulled in his phone. Up voice shaking a little as he said, "I'm recording, ma'am, just to keep everyone honest." I learned his name later, Jalen Carter, and I hope the world treats him soft for once because he did a brave thing that day. I'm a mom who knows the dance, keep your hands slow, make your voice steady, explain the obvious like a prayer. So I told Turner again, I don't consent, and there's no probable cause. We can check the cameras, we can talk to the cashier who complimented my daughter's braids, and my little girl tugged my shirt and whispered, "Mommy, are we in trouble?" And I bent down and said, "No, baby, we're going home," and I meant it, like a promise and a shield. Backup rolled in with the swagger that makes your stomach drop, and the second officer, Justin Reynolds' younger eyes awake, scanned the lot for broken glass that wasn't there for witnesses pointing at me that didn't exist for any reason at all, and said under his breath, "Blake, what do we have besides a tip?" Turner didn't answer him. He answered the crowd, his voice loud enough to make sure the phones caught it. "Ma'am, put your hands on the car now," and I straightened my spine and said, "No, not because I wanted to fight, but because you can't teach your child to be small in the face of something this wrong." A woman with a to-go cup and a courage I'll never forget shouldered in and said, "I'm Monique, I'm not leaving." And the circle tightened, that quiet hush you hear when strangers decide not to be strangers. And Turner gave me that look, the one that says, "You made me do this." And his hand slid from his radio to his taser, and the red dot found my shirt. 15 miles away, my husband Andre was leading SEAL Team 7 through urban training at a facility near Pendleton, and the family emergency app on his device buzzed because my heart rate spiked. And the second he saw my location, the second he heard the words Westfield Shopping Center over local channels, something cold and focused snapped into place in him. I know that sound in his voice, the one that says move. He told Elena Morales, their communications specialist, to open police frequencies. He flagged Colonel Grant for family emergency authorization, and he told his team non-lethal civilian environment priority 1 is medical for Jasmine. Priority 2 is scene security. We are not here to play soldier. We are here to protect you, hear me. Back in the lot, a Supervisor Sergeant Patricia Williams arrived, polished tone eyes taking in the crowd. The phones my daughter pressed behind my legs like she could disappear. And she told me a search would clear things up, that cooperation would get me home faster, that refusing could be obstruction, and I said as evenly as I could, "I do not consent. I have not committed a crime. My child will not watch me be humiliated because you won't check a camera." Turner took that as a dare. I could see it. He lifted the taser. The crowd yelled. Reynolds said, "Blake, we don't need to do this. There are kids here." And Turner said, "Last warning." And I thought, if I fall, I'll try to fall away from Chloe. I'll make my body a wall, and he counted 1, 2, 3, and he fired. Pain hit, like the sky caved in, my muscles locked and shook. The asphalt scraped my cheek. I could hear Chloe screaming like the sound was being pulled out of my bones, and Turner's voice somewhere above me saying, "Should have complied," and then a different voice cutting through a woman's voice, clear and sharp. "I'm Dr. Naomi Ellis. She needs medical. Now taser exposure can cause arrhythmias. Move." When I could breathe again, when the world slid back into color, my hands were cuffed behind me, my chest was hiccuping, and Dr. Ellis was trying to reach me, while Turner blocked her with his body, like my life was his property, and the crowd said things I can't repeat here, and phones climbed higher, and Jalen's live feed ticked up like a thermometer in a fire. Yeah, that happened. And then we all heard it, not police sirens, but something deeper, engines that didn't whine but announced, and 3 black SUVs turned into that lot with a precision. You feel in your teeth. Doors opened. 8 operators stepped out without theatrics. Weapons, low palms, visible insignia, clear enough that even folks who grew up far from a base understood. And my husband walked straight to me, knelt and said, "Hey babe, I'm here, breathe with me, good." And then he stood and faced Turner with that stillness that says, "I am done asking." "I'm Andre Wilson, United States Navy SEAL Team 7. The woman you assaulted is my wife. The child you traumatized is my daughter. And right now you are interfering with medical care," he said. And you could feel the math racing through the supervisor's head, the cameras, the uniforms, the word federal hanging in the air like a hammer. New patrol cars screeched and officers stepped out with weapons high because somebody had told them armed suspects, not military family emergency response. And Andre raised his empty hands and said, "Holster. Everyone. You're being recorded from a dozen angles. We are not your enemy. We are here to ensure medical care and de-escalate. Stand down. Identify your supervisor," and a veteran sergeant on the new shift read the room and lowered his weapon and said, "Stand down now." And Williams finally said the only words that made sense, "Uncuff her." Turner fumbled with the key, unhappy to be made small, and the second those cuffs clicked off, Dr. Ellis slid in with a paramedic team that had been waiting behind a line nobody had the right to draw, and she started doing what professionals do. Chloe was shaking in Monique's arms, her face blotchy and wet, and then she saw Andre and launched Daddy, the bad man, hurt Mommy, and he folded her in and said, I know, but Mommy's here. We're getting her help. You're safe. Say it with me. We're safe." And she hiccuped the words out and held his neck like a dock line. An unmarked SUV showed up with less noise and more weight, and a woman in a suit with a badge that said FBI approached like she had been here 1,000 times. "Agent Sarah Martinez, Civil Rights Division," she said. "Officer Turner, your conduct is under federal investigation. Your body cam is evidence. You will not interfere with medical care. You may remain silent, and if you're smart, you will." The ambulance doors closed with that double click I still hear in my sleep, and I watched the ceiling tiles drift and thought, please let my daughter be looking at anything else right now, and at the hospital monitors beeped like tired birds, and Dr. Ellis stood at the foot of my bed with her jaw unclenched for the first time and said, "You're stable. We're watching your rhythm. We'll keep you overnight." And the words landed like water on a stone. Andre held Chloe on a chair by the window, and when she finally slept, small mouth open like a question, he came to my side and took my hand, and we did the kind of talking married people do when something breaks and you need to touch every piece we talked about. The moment he knew the tone in my emergency alert, the way Morales patched the channels, the permission he asked for and the permission he didn't need. Agent Martinez came later with a notebook and a kind face that didn't try to make anything better than it was. She had already pulled the store cameras, secured Jalen's video to multiple drives, taken statements from Reynolds and Monique and 3 other witnesses who had never met me before, but said what they saw. And she explained the law in simple words, so my tired brain could hold it. Deprivation of rights, under color of law, assault, denial of medical care, child endangerment. Each of those means something, and we're going to make sure it means something here. You know what I mean. The days after were loud, and then oddly quiet, loud, with headlines and sirens, and the sound of people who once looked away, deciding to look straight on, quiet with the work that doesn't trend, the appointments and the forms and the conversations where you teach a 3-year-old that a uniform doesn't make a person good or bad, that actions do. The city tried to smear me at first, painted me as difficult, painted Andre as a threat because he knows how to stand tall without shrinking anyone else, and the footage didn't care. It told the story. And the story was ugly enough that even people who disagree with me on everything else said, "Not that. Not like that." Turner was charged federally. Williams faced discipline for failing to intervene. Reynolds testified, shaky at first and then stronger, and he stayed, and he started talking to new recruits about the day. He almost forgot his training and how he plans never to forget again. Jalen's live stream got shared by people I didn't know, and then people I used to watch on TV, and he used the attention to start a little foundation that buys external battery packs and teaches kids how to hold a phone steady when their hands are shaking. That's the kind of patriotism I believe in. Monique helped organize a community forum that was actually a working meeting, not just a venting session, and she ran for office because the complaint line can't fix a system designed to resist change. And when she won, she said into a microphone, "This is for every mom who had to be both witness and shield." We filed a lawsuit because accountability is not vengeance, it's a boundary, and the settlement helped pay for therapy, not just for us, but for other families who need to sit in a room with someone who knows how to put a scream into words without making it smaller. At home, we got new rhythms. Chloe's nightlight shaped like a cloud, her bad dreams softer over time. Her game's changing too. She still plays police and firefighter with her dolls. But in her version, the firefighter looks the officer in the eye and says, "We help or we go pick one," and the officer nods and says, "I'm sorry." And she hands him a tiny teacup, and they both sit down. People ask if I'm angry, and the honest answer is yes. And also I'm something stronger. I'm committed, because anger without direction burns everything. But anger with a plan is a stove you can cook on. So I show up at boring meetings where policy gets written. I bring snacks to the ER on overnight shifts. I talk to high schoolers about power and phones and how to point a lens like a promise. And I try to remember that the goal isn't to win a moment, it's to change a pattern. Andre went back to work after a while, not because we were done, but because the world asks for him in places I can't go. And when he's gone, I tell Chloe bedtime stories about people who jump into storms and bring strangers home. And sometimes she asks, "Will the bad officer say sorry?" And I tell her some people learn late and some never. But it doesn't stop us from doing what's right. The twist you're waiting for is not that a special operations team pulled into a parking lot like a movie, though, yeah, that turned a page. The real twist is that a whole community decided to stand in the same place at the same time and say no more. A rookie, a doctor, a teenager, a bystander with a tote bag and a backbone, an agent who knows the difference between authority and accountability. A husband who remembered his oath included his family. 2 years later, there's a small plaque near the spot where I fell. Nothing fancy, no grand speeches, just a metal square that says, "For those who stand when standing costs," and sometimes we walk past it on the way to the pretzel stand. And Chloe traces the letters and asks if this is where the day changed, and I say, "No, baby. The day changed inside all of us. This is just where we decided to make it public." I still tense when a cruiser turns onto our street. I still measure my words when someone in uniform says hello and means it. I still sleep light some nights and wake with the taste of electricity in my mouth. But I also laugh more than I thought I would. Again, I dance while I load the dishwasher. I let myself be happy in the ordinary because that's the point, right? To protect the space where a mom can hum a song and a kid can ask if ladybugs punch a time card. You wanted a clean ending, I know. But I won't lie to you. Justice is not a door you close. It's a bolt. You slide every night and check every morning, and the work doesn't end just because one man got charged and one video went viral. The work is in the 1,000 tiny choices we make when we see a red dot on someone else's shirt, when we watch authority stretch past its edges, when we decide to be witnesses and then decide to be neighbors. If you watch this far, tell me what you think. Tell me where you draw the line between safety and control. Tell me if you've ever stepped in, if a phone ever changed a story in your town. Tell me if you think I was right to refuse or if you believe compliance is the price of peace. Yeah, we can argue here in good faith and learn out loud. That's how it gets better. Like the video, if you felt it, share it. If someone you love needs to hear it, subscribe if stories like this matter to you. But more than that, the next time you see someone getting smaller so someone else can feel bigger, take a breath and decide who you are, because your voice counts, your camera counts, the way you stand counts. And somewhere a child is learning what justice feels like by watching what we do next.